All right, so, and I'll go quickly on some of the things that we cover in the class, in the seminar class, and a lot of it is starting right here. This is the fireman's worst nightmare. Now, in all my classes that I teach, ready? There's a sort of a standard saying that everybody has. The firemen teach other firemen. Gray-haired guys teach the guys that come in with black hair before they get gray hair as being firemen. In case of fire, don't use the
fire escape.
Good job.
See? Now, why they do that is because since fire escapes have been totally neglected, you bring your own ladder to your fire. You do not use fire escapes in any way. See? And that's because somebody did something wrong in 75 years. We're not going to fix it in 75 minutes. We're not going to fix it in 75 days. But that is trained every day. Yet when they walk through your building, they never say, hey, nice building, nice sprinklers, nice everything. But listen, in case of fire, don't ever use the fire escape. Because then they'll freak everybody out. And if we show up and you're on the fire escape, we're not going to save you. Imagine that was like constantly told to every owner or every tenant. Something happened. Fire escapes are the bastard child of egress for a reason. Out of sight, out of mind. Must be maintained at all times, means if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that means that unless it's right in your face, there's no enforcement. You guys remember 25 plus years ago, sprinkler systems were not being enforced, and you had buildings that had sprinklers working on the first, but not on the second. The eighth was gone, and yet the building was still active. Now, you take any building that doesn't have a fully charged system and a tag that says it's been tested every year, that building gets shut down. There's all these guys around it every day until that matter is resolved. The reason that happens is because many firemen lost their lives, and they started saying, dude, it's a no-brainer. If your sprinkler system isn't tested and certified, you shut your building down. But before, there's no more before. By the way, how's your elevator? Where's the yearly tag on that elevator? Otherwise, shut that thing and make everybody use the stairs. So fire escapes have not gone that way, but that's where it's going. So that he'll never say that. And here's one of the reasons why. We got to give you guys a signal of some kind. That you walk into any alleyway anywhere in the United States, you walk in there and your guys have had a new training, and the new training says you walk into any alleyway and you see, because you can't carry paper in your back pocket. Yeah, let me see, excuse me. You see a white tag, which is 9 by 11, permanently attached to a fire escape 7 to 10 feet off the ground. And it says fire escape has no deficiencies. Or you just see anything that is white, and it tells you when it was inspected and when the next due date is. It's a no-brainer for everybody. The owner, the tenants, the inspectors, the yearly inspections, everybody can kind of look up and see when the next due date is for that fire escape. If there's a tag on there, I'm not going to waste 3 to 5 minutes to go get my ladder out of my truck to save the woman and the baby, because what kills woman and baby? Fire or smoke?
Smoke.
So those 3 to 5 minutes is what you got to take that baby out. If you got a good fire escape that you can climb up and jump up and do whatever and you're going to be safe, you're going to use those 3 to 5 minutes to save. If there's something wrong with a fire escape, you want a yellow on it. If there's something life-threatening, you want a red. Reds shut down buildings, fire watchers, you name it. Yellows say you got 30 days to fix it, but it's still a fire escape that's not 100%. Yeah, whites means and you get these tags every white. Now, once we start getting this system, and we say, does anybody doing this? Yeah, Seattle's doing it. Seattle wants every fire escape in their city to have a tag, like an elevator tag. How long is it going to take? 3 to 5 years. Why is it a good idea? Because guys like you are saying, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. Well, we're going to change that around. So that we have to say, in case of fire, look for the tag. Is it white? Get on it. Anything else, go get your ladders. So with that, now comes some of the industry standard documentation that we give. This is a quick shorty that comes out of one of our classes. We would hand this to a city and say, hi, here's a confidence test, and here's what we call a departmental procedures and guidelines. Now, this departmental procedures and guidelines, all it is basically us working with a city official, because we try to change code and we don't have to change code. The code already says what we need to do. We thought we had to change code and be more specific. We don't. We just have to explain to you what the code was saying so you interpreted it correctly, and I think I did with the 3 codes, and we're going to do that again today. But then the departmental procedures and guidelines, I had a state official in my class. He says, you don't have to change code. You have to make a departmental procedures and guidelines story that every official wants, that says this is more or less my interpretation of what I want. So you create a departmental procedures and guidelines, which is not changing code, it's his interpretation. And once you read this, you can, and what we did, we created the document, put the code there. This is a mass one. We took a clipping of the city website. We put it on there, dealing with inspectional service. We put the city officials' phone numbers and stuff on there. And what we did is we made this so that the city now can send this to anybody who calls in. What do I do with my fire escape? I just got a violation. Well, if you have a problem for inspection, have your inspector read this. If you have a problem with your repairing it, have your repair vendor read this. And if you're going to have it painted, have your paint vendor read this. Okay? So once you've read all these things, and this is not a code, here's the code, and the code says all exterior steel, wooden stairways, fire escapes, and egress balconies shall be examined. What's examined mean? Well, read here. Or tested. What's that mean? Well, read here. And certified. What's that mean? Read here. For structural adequacy and safety every 5 years by a mass registered professional engineer or others qualified and acceptable to the building official. What's others qualified? Read here. So everything is kind of read there. Now, let's go into, okay, what's the next point? I got to repair it. I got Joe Landscaper giving me a bid, and I've got Bobby Ironworks giving me a bid. What do they have to do? Okay, that document I sent you a week ago on my violation, you and they should read that. Okay, well, you know, I'm thinking of painting it myself. I'm going to have my friend, the painter, paint the fire escape after they're done. Okay, have your painter read that. So we kind of made it simple because if you want to just take a quick second just to quickly glance, these are the most important ones. And you being the authority having jurisdiction, see if I'm offending you and your authority in any way while reading that.
That's great.
Simple terms, right?
Yeah.
And it's not out of my mouth, right? I think I'm putting words in his mouth. Did I put the right words in your mouth?
Yeah, that's good.
That's good, right? Simple, plain,
Yeah.
easily, what's the word? Discussed in any way. And the repair guys are in the same way. And I even have it in here, which I was forced to put in because some places will say a permit may not be required. And I'm like, yeah, a permit should always be required when you touch anything structurally. But some states say, so that's that whole local, I'll decide whether or not I want them to pull a permit. Okay, so we put
Right.
if, but otherwise, 99% of the times you should be pulling a permit whenever you're touching a structure, such as a fire escape. And then the EPA, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the EPA says that all fire escapes older than 1978, you know how many of those are out there? Fire escapes older than 1978?
Everyone.
Everyone has a lead base.
Yeah.
So guess what you can't do? Can't sandblast it, can't power anything on it.
You gotta obey it.
No, you don't have to abate it, which is great. Different states will push it a little bit different. The OSHA comes into play, and then you have to have a renovator's license. And the EPA renovator's license, which generated a ton of billions of dollars for them, is basically saying that you go to a class on a weekend, 8 hours, and you learn how to handle things that have lead. Whether you're a painter, you're doing something on the outside of a building inside, just making you guys with a white. It's not full oxygen tanks. It's it's the dust and how do you collect the stuff. It's the simplest form of chips, and you can't put a flame. So if you can't put a flame to something that has lead, who does that eliminate when you're repairing a fire escape?
Iron workers.
No, iron workers change
I mean,
bolts.
The
welding guys.
welding guys.
Who basically, now can the welding guy change bolts? Great. So you tell him, dude, if you're gonna come here, don't bring your welding machine, bring your bolt changer, and you're gonna make some money. Otherwise, you do it any other way, you're gonna be, and the EPA is $35,000 fine. So as long as you're doing the lead thing correctly and you're changing the bolts correctly, and one important thing is load test, and I'll go into the code right now with you, or other satisfactory evidence. Who do you want to watch the other satisfactory evidence? You or the structural engineer?
Well,
Who do you want to babysit it?
I'd
You
like
have time?
I'd like the structural engineer to babysit it.
Well, that's the law.
Yeah.
You're saying, I don't need anything other than a load test. So if you want to fix it without any structural engineers, go ahead, fix the whole thing, and then just give me the load test. Let me know when the load test is up. And I've read somewhere in a book that you have to do a confidence test, which basically is nothing but a visual test confirming that there's no evidence of any rust anywhere and everything's been packed. That's a confidence test.
Right.
And the guy that did repaired it had no structural engineer, and you're like, okay, no oversight of any kind, great. Where's the load test? No, we refer. With a structural engineer oversight? No. Then I want a load test. Because I don't have time to watch it. I don't know what you did, and that's why you pay a structural engineer to do 3 to 5 visits, and he will constantly keep me in touch and say, dude, I'm watching that job, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and I'm trying to avoid the load test with you. And you ask them questions like you did today. Say, hey, oh, you repacked it, great. You got some photos of some of those pieces inside? Yeah, we did. Okay, great. But then I told you, but it doesn't matter. Because when you're load testing, there is no need for evidence, other than the fact that you've repacked everything, all the bolts have changed. There's physical confidence test information. Okay, so when we send out a pack, this is a great thing that helps you answer anybody. Every time you write a violation, you would send them. So we'd make one of these through the National Fire Escape Association for you that has your information in it. This is a confidence test we did for Seattle. If you go to seattle.gov and you do a download on the confidence testing, they have confidence testers for sprinklers, for alarms, everything online. Inclusive in that is this test that we designed. We designed this test and they basically took all our questions. Now, this is like a final exam to a building inspector. To a structural engineer. Obviously, client information, but then it starts getting into specific questions of, when you start reading, it's all yes, no's. And when you start reading all of it, it starts getting into things that are called the anchoring devices. So if you look at number 19, this tells you about every bolt, every rust, that there's no rust on the fire escape, and that starts, starts right here on this. All critical materials, connections, and/or joints are 100% free of all internal rust and rot. Internal rust or rot, not surface rust. Internal rust or rot. Is that pretty self-explanatory? Well, even then, some people will not understand what that says. So what you do is you ask them: bolts, rivets, welds, stairs, stringers, treads, rail. Yes, no's. They have to get yes, all there. But then the number 19 says: are the connections to or the anchors into the building sufficient to support the required loads as verified by methods acceptable to the structural engineer? Internal inspection, load tested, or reinforced or duplicated connection, meaning an epoxy, did a Hilti
So
connection.
you're saying just replace the bolts and there's no question?
Well, that's what this says. Do you want to load test it for thousands of dollars, or do you want to, just duplicate the connection and then put your cycle in load testing every 20 or 25 years? So this is good, including counterbalances, including catwalks and decks. And then there's one more last piece that they've done, which is very good. We did this in Tacoma. So Tacoma did the same class with us, and they implemented this system of testing and checking. They have an annual. The beautiful thing about this annual is that this is not for a structural engineer. This is for the building owner and the building manager. And your yearly walk through a building, you would ask the building super, the building guy, to walk through. And this is a very simple question. Bolts and supports are not damaged or rusted? Simple. Paint is in good condition? Good. And all the moving parts, doors, windows, and things, are they operational? Yes. Sign it here. Are you the owner, the agent, or other? Signature. And you give this to the building official or the fire official who does this yearly. So this is the yearly, in lieu, and not in lieu of, but the structural does it every 5 years, confidence testing, but you do it yearly. And then there's a tag there. And every time you walk by, you say, hey, you're due for a load test, next year.
Right.
And now he'll then say, oh, we're gonna have our structural engineer, because his phone number's in there, he says, we did a full refurb. And he's gonna tell you that, he wants to take advantage of the 25-year life cycle, a load test cycle, because this thing is perfect, our refurb was 5 years ago, why would you want us to load test this thing? And then but again, the authority having jurisdiction, this is the life safety code right there. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any fire escape that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence. So, load test is one thing that makes you sleep at night, that says I'm accepted, and other satisfactory evidence. So even after 5 years, after it's been fully refurbed, he said, I don't care, I want a load test. The guy can't say anything. I must load test it. Now, let's go backwards and start seeing where the other codes say the exact same thing. This is the International Building Code that we use for Mass, and it says right here, fire escapes shall be examined, which means what? Satisfactory evidence, or tested, which means what? Load tested, and certified, which means what? Other satisfactory evidence, for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years by a registered professional engineer or others qualified to the official. Done. See what the fire code says. This is 1028.6, the International Fire Code, of which New Jersey uses 1028.6. Okay, so we go in here, 1028.6 says, all exit discharges, and by the way, this is a whole can of worms coming. I love doing this in my classes, ready? All exterior bridges. Did I mention fire escapes yet? Steel wooden stairways. Did I mention fire escapes yet? Fire escapes and egress balconies. So everybody thinks these codes are just for fire escapes, but it's really all external, exterior. Steel or wooden stairs fall into this code. And it's gonna drive everybody crazy, but we need to start somewhere. We're gonna start on fire escapes and then work our way back. Because if it's exterior, you must maintain it, and there's codes and loads that are associated. So every balcony, every rear porch falls into these codes. But let me just read you the last one.
At this point, I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I got inspections to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So,
You gonna be right?
Yeah.
so right here, the last one is gonna be the, any official, any exterior stairway found to be in a state of deterioration or determined to be unsafe by the fire official shall be repaired immediately, depending upon structural condition. Does that mean other satisfactory evidence? A load test of any fire escape shall be conducted. Load test. So I love this NFPA bike because it's as clear as day now.
Right.
Before the fire escape is returned to service in accordance with the code. So this comes into play now, especially here in LA, that LA has the ladder inspection every year. They want a Reg 4 inspection on every ladder in the city. But you only inspect the ladder. And yes, you inspect the fire escape that it's attached to, because if there's any other deficiencies, you're supposed to note it during your Reg 4. But your main
Right.
focus is the Reg
Ladder.
4, is this
Ladder.
ladder, does it work, does it go up and down? Anything wrong with a fire escape that needs a permit pulls this into building safety. As soon as I pull it into building safety, I have to find the building code, and that's why I thought you were gonna bring a guy there here today from the building side. I'd say, where is your code that talks about what you would use to deal with this fire escape issue that we just together ran into? He goes, and most likely, because if he's using any international building code, it's gonna say this: it must be examined and or tested. So we gotta get him up to speed to say that in order for him to satisfy you, because let's say he goes, you know what, no, just want a permit, and as soon as my guy goes out there and says it's all done, we're good. So, okay, well, the authority having jurisdiction is the building inspector, but the guy who's gonna use it is the fire inspector who brought this to you. And next year, it's back to him anyway during a Reg 4.
Right.
And during next year, he's gonna pull this out and say, you know what? I want this fire escape approved by a load test, because last year they fixed it through building department, but they really didn't do what I wanted them to do, which is basically before returning it to service, which 2 of my codes say to do that. Before you return it to service, load test it, or give me other satisfactory evidence. I don't feel that the building guy really, took this, because during a fire, he never gets on it. My guys and the tenants are gonna get on this. So I try to, make him aware that it should be load tested so that I can be satisfied.
Right.
And there's other ways to, push that along, because it's really getting, I'm fixing it but giving it back to you. And so you
Right.
say, well, then if you're giving it back to me, can you at least give it back to me on my terms? And my
Sure.
terms is, on my 2 codes, it's, load test or other satisfactory evidence. I don't think there was an engineer oversight on this. I don't think there was just a repair. And I see plenty of square head bolts and rivets still here, which is, they're fine. And I just need one way to verify that they're fine. I don't want an opinion. I don't want, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, they're good. I don't want that.
Right.
So the code says a load test will let me sleep at night.
Yeah.
Or other satisfactory evidence, which is change all those out, which is not a huge major cost associated with the thing. I mean, it's a cost, but it's not a huge cost. And I'm not telling the guy to replace it.
Right.
And then there's the connections back into the building, which, when I'm not gonna make him break up all his brick and stuff like that, he can just blow another hole through it and do duplicate the connection. Keep the original. Now at 200%. I'm actually better. It's actually better than before. So with that, here's what we would naturally teach in a slideshow seminar, which you've seen. So I'm giving you sort of the thumbnail version. We start talking about just what is the type of fire escapes that are out there. What is the repair procedures and guidelines? Because if you make it standard industry documentation, it's just so easy for somebody else to just copy and paste this.
Right.
And everything always starts with, must be free of all rust. So there's nothing to say more. Take all the rust out, put a new bolt in. That's the extent of everything. Everything that I say here and all these, it basically says free of any internal rust, change the bolt. Procedures and guidelines. We'll work with you, and if this wording is correct, we'll put, and we'll send this to you in a PDF and in a Word document. And you can change any of this around the way you like, or copy and paste this into one of your legal documents that has your header on it. Use any of this if it makes sense. We've also made this here, same thing. This is a continuation, this is a much simpler form of this, but this talks about everything. Ladders, platforms, platform supports, staircases, treads, fixed ladders, weighted cantilevers and ladders, and mortar connections. I think we've covered everything on a fire escape. There's nothing else that I've ever seen. And if there is, you can deduce from reading these what to do there. So we've demystified fire escapes. Then we start showing you in the classes just how they're built. And in 100 years, they have never changed. They kind of perfected it day one.
Right.
You either tie it into the building the way we tie it, I told you 8 to 12 inches deep.
Right.
Through the veneer. The veneer is not structural. The veneer is a coating. It's just its facade.
Right.
And the only other way is with a backing plate, or in some rare cases, there is this masonry, and they have a through bolt through a masonry wall. A lot of mills will have this through a masonry with a plate on the inside visible. And the last one I talked to you about is again legs to the ground. So this is a leg. That's a leg. We cover that in the class. We talk about the railings and how they're attached, usually just onto the veneer. But you can take rails away, they don't affect the structure of the fire escape. Okay? We tell you how grading and treads are made nowadays. We talk about ladders and how they pop. We talk about the clips and how things accumulate dirt and how they were built wrong. And we talk about cantilevers, and a lot of people don't realize cantilevers are weighted balance systems. It's, when you look at this drawing, how does this work? And what it is once you release that, it's single action requiring no special knowledge. You run into it. As your belly pushes it along, it releases this, and this thing drops down to the ground. It only weighs 25 pounds on that nose. When it weighs 25 pounds on that nose, that means as you walk down, by the time you make these 3, 5, or 10 steps down here, it's already hit the ground and stays down.
Right.
That's why it weighs 25 pounds more. When you want to put it up, there's a guy on the ground throwing 25 pounds in the air, and there's a guy up on the top to reconnect it back in. That's simple. Now, this is what happens when it's wrong. And it doesn't have a release arm, and it's perfectly balanced. As these things keep coming down and people pull these down and break into the building, what happens is the owner puts a chain from here to there. The owner puts weights on the back of this, and you're gonna see that when we do our little alley walk around, you're gonna see a lot of chains.
Okay.
And that is so that this thing is always constantly weighted backwards.
Right.
And they weigh it backwards 100, 200, 300 pounds. So what happens is when you have a 150-pound woman and a 50-pound child walking down here, is the child in front or behind you?
Front?
The child? If the child falls, the child's
Oh,
gonna-
no, you're gonna have the child behind you.
So the mother comes along, and the thing is weighted backwards, and she steps here on the first strut. Will it come down?
Should.
Should, but it won't. Not if
the
it's
extra
back
weight.
weighted
Yeah.
200 to 300 pounds.
Right.
She'll go out 3 steps. Will it go down?
At some point, it's gonna go down.
Halfway? When she gets halfway with her and her child, there's 200 pounds halfway, counteracting 200 to 300 pounds of weight in the back with a chain. It'll come down 2 to 3 feet per second, or 5 to 10 feet per second.
2 or 3.
The 2 to 3 if it's properly balanced. 5 to 10 if it's improperly balanced. So when it's 5 to 10 feet and it hits the ground, violent?
Yeah.
Pretty violent. 2 things are going to happen to that woman and child. She's either going to get ejected, or she's going to hold on and scream and yell and stuff. And these things are 12 feet off the ground because of trucks, alleyway requirements, 12 to 14 feet off the ground. As soon as it hits the ground, she screams, yells, and she tells the kid to stop crying, let's go, and they go down a little further. As soon as she gets off the cantilever with her 150 pounds, what happens to the 50 pounds that's still on there?
It springs.
Springs it
springs
right
back
back
out
up.
of the air like a rocket.
So the kid doesn't have time to think and jump off.
Right.
But his mom doesn't have time to think. She's caught by surprise. She goes, whoa, like that. All of a sudden, the cantilever goes back in. And
Yeah.
LA's got a ton of cantilevers. I just want you to visually see what
Yeah.
occurs. So now we got this 8-year-old kid, 12 feet up in the air, and the mom's down below telling the kid to do what?
Jump.
Jump. Will the kid jump?
Probably not.
Only if it trusts its mom to catch it.
12 feet is a long way. So
Yeah,
it's
it
a lot
is,
of
yeah.
screaming, a lot of yelling, and there's
Yeah.
fire going on. Fire department hasn't arrived yet. The mom is thinking, jump, jump, jump. Kid doesn't want to jump.
Yeah.
Do you think that mom will go back in that burning building and repeat the process?
She may just go right back in.
Okay, so she's in her nights her pajamas, she runs back to the front door, and what doesn't she have?
Well, she doesn't have any protection to go back into this. No key.
She can't even get back in.
Yeah.
So she's gonna pound the door, smash glass, she's gonna do anything to get back
Yeah.
into her building and go back up to her apartment. So if she somehow gets in the front door of the apartment building, and she gets to the front door of her house, who's gonna open the door for her? So she's got all, but let's say she's at the front door, pounding and screaming to get back in because the kid's in the alleyway, and who
Right.
shows up? It's the fire department. And they say what? What's the problem?
You're not coming in.
You're not going in, get out of here. She's like, no, my kid. And go, well, where's your kid? And he goes, oh, my kid's back here. So the fire department goes in the alleyway.
Diverted to.
And they go back there, and now, are we fighting fire or are we rescue mission?
It's a rescue mission at that point.
So we're not even fighting fire. This fire is blazing along, and every minute that it continues to blaze along, it's going to get out of control.
Right.
And the first situation, you might have saw that Bridgeport fire, 50 people on the fire escape. It was a rescue mission to get 50 people off the fire escapes first, then go fight the fire. So now these first responders get there, and they're in a rescue mission first. Now they get to the alleyway, 12 feet up, there's a little kid. And what does the fireman say to the little kid?
Jump.
Jump. What's the little kid say?
No.
I didn't jump for my mom. I ain't gonna jump for you. I don't care who you are, right?
Right.
So now you gotta go to the truck, get the ladder,
Ladder.
bring the ladder up, take the thing, and bring the kid down. He brings the ladder down with his pipe pole, brings it down, puts his foot on it. Kid gets off, reunites with the mom, get away. Can that fireman take his foot off that fire escape?
Uh, without a violent recoil back.
Well, he can.
Yeah.
But then how's he gonna get back down? He has to bring it down. But if
Yeah.
if people are gonna start fighting this fire and use this fire escape ladder, staircase,
That person had to be there.
so you just lost one guy to do what?
Just to be a weight.
Just to be a weight. So you try to get your laziest, slowest guy, and you try to switch him up, because God forbid that's the captain, and he's got his foot there, and everybody, and no, there's no direction going on.
Right.
Because he's got his foot, then he's saying to everybody, hey, come on, let's get up there, see if there's anybody else in the building, and you know, and everybody's like, but Captain, you said in case of fire,
Don't use the fire escape.
and he's like, shh, come on, you know, and so that can, those minutes of confusion can cause, so that's how cantilevers work. We're gonna see a lot of them today.
Okay.
How do you build new ones? Simple. You just copy old ones. This one and this one is nothing different, so it hasn't changed in 100 years. And if you don't know how to draw fire escapes, go look at an old one, draw it, and there's your new fire escape.
Okay.
Catwalks over roofs, everything must be continuous to a public way, so all roofs, any mansion, anything, this is a mansion. And in order to use some of those rooms up in the very top, what do we have to do? We have to, you know, to make that a very luxurious condo, you know, they have to catwalk it to a public way. How's it tied in? Through bolting. Several ways to attach through bolt. Ladders in San Francisco, you know, accordion ladders, they have all kinds. So, you know, we basically demystify. This is already on you want to go get a copy for yourself, go to seattle.org or .gov, go to fire prevention, under confidence testing, they have tests for everything, steal every test that they have, why not? And you'll see a fire escape one. It comes as a Word or PDF, take your name, put your name there, take your city, put your city there, you've got a confidence test. Just, you know, go in and take some of your code, you know, they may have a Seattle code, take that code
Yeah.
out and whatever.
Yeah.
We've gone one better, and we've just basically added things, because Seattle, we believe, missed a couple of things, including the anchoring, number 19, some of the counterbalance stuff. But again, every city starts it, and then they start tweaking it. They're going through a revision of it again, adding some of
Right.
these things. Tagging is they're already doing. So every fire escape in Seattle must have a tag, as well as Tacoma. Portland, Oregon is going through this now also. And this is what a typical examination looks like. Any inspection done on a fire escape must include photographs back to you. And that is so you don't have to go visit the site. This is a fire escape, but this is the pieces. What's important is that you, from a view this far away, your opinion is that that looks solid and strong. But once I start showing you how much rust is in it that can drop your fireman, you're like, wow, this thing is a life safety issue. Yes, that's why it's red. So proper examination is very important. Confidence test, because some people say, well, load test that as is. I ain't load testing it because of the following reasons. So you can never load test a fire escape that has internal rust in any of its connections. So once you've removed rust from every connection, then we talk about lead safe. EPA, it's not us. EPA says that any fire escape older than 1978 is presumed to have lead unless the occupant, the owner of the building, provides me with a document from a lead inspector that says that fire escape has low lead or no lead. It has no lead, then you know you can work it like any fire escape. It has any lead, I gotta wear a white suit, I gotta wear the gloves, I gotta wear a little mask, and I gotta collect all my chips correctly, and then once we've got that out of the way, then you can start working normally on it, because now you're just dealing with a structural. This is some of our academy classes that we teach, and we're trying to get our certification nationwide so that we can start actually hosting classes and being able to sign for you. But right now, I only teach classes, but through associations, and I said through Kane University, I teach through their entire fire prevention in the entire state of New Jersey. We've done probably 4 to 6 classes at their academies, and the average attendance is anywhere from 100 to 200 people in a class. And licensing, a lot of people don't realize that the only licenses that are out there that really let you touch a fire escape is a Boston license, which is really an ornamental ironworks license that allows you to touch a fire escape, and they call it the anybody that's acceptable to the building official, structural engineers or others acceptable to the building official. Well, in Boston, they allow, or others qualified and acceptable to the building official, they allow in Boston licensed guys to inspect fire escapes. Sometimes there's a conflict of interest that happens in there. We're trying to avoid that and make that an awareness.
Right.
That if you're repairing it, you can't sign off on it. If you're signing off on it, you can't repair it, that kind of thing. And in California, there's a Reg 4. But it's a limited Reg 4 in that the Reg 4 is really about the ladder. Because as soon as you start going to the back of it, it gets away from fire department, it goes to public safety. So those gray areas are still working themselves out. In San Francisco, there's a yearly ladder inspection, and there's a 604 inspection by a structural engineer. So it's always structural engineers are others acceptable to the building official. Our biggest issue right now is structural engineers. If I was to put a phone right here for you and say, call 10 engineers and ask them to come out and do an inspection, what's their rate? 75% of them usually say, I don't touch fire escapes, because there's just no money there. 25% that will say, yeah, I'll take a look at it. They're going to want to charge you by the hour. Just to say, hey, even if I go out there and waste my time talking to you, but at least you're going to write me a check for the hours that I went out there. And on average, they're going to take 5 to 10 hours per fire escape. Multiply that times $150 an hour as an average rate, and you can see why some people, that, especially the residential side, started just saying, what, forget about it. And so inspectors, building and fire, would write these violations that these people couldn't resolve because nobody can come out and do it. And so when you get enough of those that you write violations that nobody can resolve, you stop writing those. So it was basically, I call it the perfect storm of stupidity. Structural engineers didn't want to do it. Officials stopped writing it. Owners didn't care about it. And so 75 years later, where are we? Where today, as we walk some of these alleyways, you're going to see something you're like, wait a second, impossible. So this is all we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid this because the people that are going to get hurt, tenants, firemen. And the firemen have taken a back seat in this because they said, you know what, just don't get on them. That's how we're going to fix our problem. We're just not going to get on them. Well, that's 50% of your means of ingress and egress. And you've just eliminated it as one of your possibilities. So imagine being in a building and all hell's breaking loose, and you know that there's a fire escape out this window, and you're second guessing it, and just to the right of the fire right there is a stairwell, and you're like, okay, you jump out this way, you have a 75% probability of surviving. You run that way, it's 25. But in the back of your mind, you remember what Tim Norr said to you, and you start running this way, and all of a sudden, halfway there, you're down on the ground.
Right.
You're like, and then somebody investigates it and comes in, dude, I don't understand this. We know he was right here.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he jump out? And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, because Tim said, man, don't trust those things. That's the guarantee.
Right.
No, the guarantee is right there. We just have to go backwards and fix a mistake that's been long-term.
Okay.
And it's easy. It's 75 years in the making. But very quickly, just like sprinklers and elevators, it was quickly eradicated with a standard. And the standard here starts with just
Want me to move anything?
a sticker campaign. You get into a sticker campaign that says, and you don't have to change the code. because if you say in your departmental procedures and guidelines that you would like all fire escapes to follow the national standard, is there a national standard that says you must put stickers on fire escapes? You know, any state or any city that's doing it right now that can be used as a model.
Well, you mentioned that Seattle.
There you go. So
Tacoma,
as long as you got one.
Portland is in the works.
Right. So as long as you got one, right, is it a national standard?
It's the beginning of a national standard, right?
Right. So,
Yeah.
and is it a good idea?
Yeah, it's a great idea.
So then you say, okay, minimally, I want every fire escape in my city just tagged. I want it conditional. And for who? This is a great story that you know, when you sell it to the mayor and you sell it to, you just want to tag all our fire escapes. Well, what do you mean? You know, there may be some repair. Yeah, we know. We're not. This is not a repair campaign. We just want to have every fire escape tagged for my firemen when they arrive. They want to see a yellow one, a red one, or a white one. Because that way we're training our guys. You see white ones, get on it, man. Just work it. If you see a yellow one, you know, 50-50, you know? See a red one, never get on a red one, guys.
Right.
Oh, well, what's that going to mean? Well, if it's got yellows and reds, my building department is sort of working its way through to fix those things, whether it's in 1 month, 1 year, or 10 years. I don't care. They're going to get that. Believe me, yellows and reds are going to be dealt with. But all I want is a tagging campaign, and we just want every fire escape, just like Seattle, tagged for the benefit of the tenants and my firemen. So that right now, when we go through the next 1 to 3 years, and we've identified every fire escape we could find, and it has one of these tags, we come back with a mathematical number. So, oh my God, 33% of them have are really white, and 66% of them are garbage. Well, now my guys know that 33% of the fire escapes out there they're ready to use to fight fires, but 66 are being worked over the next 3-5 years. Could be sooner, and we'll decide that with the building department. Because, just so you know, we get on any fire escape that has a yellow and a red, we ain't getting on it. Loss of life, children, there's gonna be some things that you guys are gonna have to stomach.
Right.
But right now, I know the white ones I can get on, but not the red ones. So that's the whole process of starting.
Right.
And then you start saying, okay, and when I do my yearlies, you know, so as soon as we make everybody tag one and do my yearlies, and I got a yellow or a red on a building that I'm doing my yearlies on, guess what I'm not gonna give?
No compliance.
You're out of compliance.
Yeah.
So one will catch the other.
Right.
So I just want everything tagged and identified. I want to know that we physically have in our city 1,272 fire escapes identified. That's all I want. I want to know where they are, and I want to know, you know, what condition they're in. This is a conditional situation. That's all. And it has legs all by itself.
Right.
You are going to be chasing this thing down. Now I'm a tenant in that building, and somebody just stuck a yellow sticker on my fire escape. Guess what I'm going to do?
Make some noise.
I'm going to read it.
Read and find it's got deficiencies and then
There are
make some noise.
deficiencies. Yeah, I'm not giving you my rent check this month. Why? Well, because I pay 100% and I want to live in a safe place. That's 100%. I'm not going to pay my rent. So it's going to automatically, this one sticker feeds 2 people, gets the ball rolling. And then on the yearlies, you know, you'll always get, it'll work its way back to the fire department.
Right.
As soon as you tag it, and the building department is doing something or not about it, but this should be a joint venture. CJ, you don't have the joint venture letter. Did I have it here? Excuse me. I have a letter that we did one of these classes. It's in my book. You'll see it when we go back. The city of Lowell is a model city. They actually worked with their fire prevention because the Massachusetts building department runs the inspections, and they put out a joint letter that's going out with all the tax bills. It says, here's the code. Please be aware that we both have been lackadaisical in the enforcement of such this issue, and we are now going to start jointly enforcing this. So please be aware. And it explains. It's just simply it's the code. So please have your fire escape inspected. And it went out with all the tax bills. So that's something you guys can just model, just change the name at the top, put your name on. We jointly are now going to be looking at this, and it's a concern of ours, and you just put it out with the tax bills. And then you start doing it automatically. Now, here's how you're going to do it automatically, and then from here we'll end it, and we'll go into some walkarounds. How do you make this automatic? Because if I have to make you think about writing a fire escape violation, it might get out of the way because we have solar issues now, solar panels catching fire, we got you know, the codes associated with smokes, the codes associated with so many different things that you guys, toxics and spills and stuff. That stuff is really becoming the training today when this stuff is all dinosaur stuff.
Right.
So how do you make this automatic? And the automatic comes in two ways, right? In the city of Boston, when they went through their collapse and their thing, and the class that you saw through one of our investigative reporters, they just made it so that you can pull any permit you want in the city of Boston. But to close the permit, if you don't have a current certificate to close the permit on your fire escape, if your building has one, because many buildings don't have it, so your permit automatically closes. But if you don't have a permit, if you don't, in closing your permit, you don't have a current certificate on file, it keeps your permit open. Can't close it. So all of a sudden you get all these people who are spending money on their building, all of a sudden calling us and say, hey, I just changed my toilet, I pulled a permit, and all of a sudden I gotta fix my fire escape, you know, and I can't close the permit. So they made it an automatic, they made it a checklist item. And they used permits to basically identify activities in every building, and so that was not a fast way, but a slow way of just making it happen. That was Boston. Fire departments, what can you guys do? You guys walk into all these buildings all the time, and what's the last thing you give me before I go into a building and occupy it?
Yes, it's check off. We gotta have.
The smoke detector. On your checklist for smoke detectors, on every building, just add one line to the checklist. You're asking for a copy of your current certification. Checklist. Just add it to the smoke detector, because the smoke detector goes off where? When I'm sleeping. And I go out where? To the fire escape for the building. Now, if you get to a building, you have a smoke detector checklist, and you go, oh, I need a copy of fire escape affidavit. The guy goes, I don't have fire escape. Oh, not applicable. Here's your thing. Occupy your building. Have a nice day, sir. Or it's, well, everything good. Great smoke. These are some of the best smoke detectors in the world. Yep. I need a copy of your certification. I'm not ordering a certification. I need a copy of your current certification of your fire escape system outside. Guy goes, what the hell is that? I've never had one. Ah. Now this, on an authority having jurisdiction, what can you do from there? Every state tells you can do different things. Some say, oh, when you have it, call me. Some say, no, you're not allowed to do that. The law says you can't stop that because, you're right. No. Here's your check, here's your thing, and by the way, you have a violation. What do you mean? There's no certification. I just gave you the smoke. You can't occupy, but now I'm not going to let you occupy on this other code because you don't have a safe means of egress. So you're going to play. The authority jurisdiction is not there to stop the world from financially moving forward.
Right.
It's basically, my checklist item is just, it's a trigger because, this is a dinosaur issue that we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
It's just there, and, oh, but you don't have authority. You're right. Hey, Joe, building inspector, you having authority in this situation? This guy I gave him a smoke detector, but he doesn't have a proper means of egress. So you want to come down here, shut this building down? Before he lets all these people move their junk into the house? And not to be threatening in that, you just need to make it a checklist item. So your building department will work with you and make every building permit have a checklist in there that asks for a current copy. Not order an inspection, ask for a current copy. Not having one or having never done one triggers a need for one.
Right.
Same thing for you. I need a copy. Not having one or never doing one triggers. And you can make a judgment call and say, listen, you know what? If I get a call from an inspection company that's going to come out here within the next 7 to 10 days,
Right.
I'll allow you to occupy. And I've done my quick visual, and this is not an inspection by any means, but I don't see anything here. This looks like it's been well maintained.
Right.
So I'm going to allow you to occupy, but you must resolve this issue within 10 days. That's courtesy, only extended by the authority having jurisdiction. So once you make this dinosaur issue a checkbox somewhere on 2 pieces of paper, you're going to see that this is going to start getting its own legs. And very quickly, with this document sitting at all the counters, sitting everywhere, you're going to start seeing more and more activity on fire escape. You're going to start seeing more fire escapes. You're going to start seeing and asking, what is your second means of egress? And they say, oh, down here, it's, I got a door there and I got a door there. But our second floor, it's that stairway goes to the second, and then off the back window, you go through a roof and then there's a ladder in the back corner. Oh, is that pre-existing? Yeah, pre-existing. Okay. Well, let me take a look at it, because you know you're supposed to have a catwalk over the roof. Continues to that ladder. I don't want anybody wandering off the roof. You got a catwalk up there? No. I mean, I got some AC units and stuff, yeah. If there's any obstructions of any kind, imagine smoke, imagine confusion, you got to give these people a bridge. So let me go up there and take a look, but your inspector that's going to come in is going to tell you everything must be continuous to a public way. So this is approved means of egress. Your second floor has only that stair. That over the roof thing needs a catwalk, and that ladder going down to the ground. Is it a guillotine one, or is it a weighted balance system that drops 2 to 3 feet per second? Oh, it's one of those that has a flop out. You know, you kind of release it from the top and it flops down. Oh yeah. Oh, the one that in case there's a fireman or a person downstairs that'll peg him in the head and kill him. Yeah, those are illegal. You can't guillotine it down. It has to be 2 to 3 feet per second, so that in case it does graze somebody, hit somebody, 2 to 3 feet per second, it's gonna hurt, but it's not gonna kill. You know, and but your inspector will tell you all about that. And but right now, and I'll send you some information, and it's right here. You know, and it talks about. You know, I got a cut sheet in one of my books, and you'll have one of these. You know, I'm going to give you this book. Let me send you. That's down here. Weighted balance systems. You know, all original hardware. Blah blah blah. And they'll tell you new ladder systems with weights and locks systems will be designed and engineered to submit to the fire code for review in case you're going to make a new one. You know, you got to have a lock system. You got to have a pinwheel symbol. You know, assemblies. It'll. And otherwise, you know, call the National Fire Escape Association. They'll give you some guidelines. Otherwise, I can copy and paste this over to you. So. This is generation 1 of a very thick book that we're going to make for you guys in the future, and everything through the National Fire Escape Association, so that we can start getting grants from, you know, anybody that gives money to anything that's fire department.
Yeah.
You know, it'll help us push this out. Right now, it's one man, one flag, and and one video camera. But this is actually very helpful for, you know, you're the first in California to do a class, and for what reason? Because we have a common situation. We have the Bob Hope load test.
Right.
So all of a sudden you've got probably the most training in all of California regarding just what is a load test and why it is. Are we doing this in the rest of the country? Yeah, to a certain degree. The East Coast is doing it a lot more because we're older at it.
Right.
But all of a sudden now the age is getting here to California, and some of these are 50 to 75 years old. So we just make it simple. There's videos out there to train. There's documentation down that the wording is simplified so that you know if you're going to inspect it, repair it, or paint it. So we keep that simple. There's variations of anything that you can ever do on a fire escape. So there's a little cheat booklet that's available to anybody to say, okay, this is like what it is. And what this is really forcing is everybody to do it right. Because you got over 1 million fire escapes nationwide. There's no way one company is going to be able to do this.
Right.
So what you have to do is you have to set a standard so that every company that wants to play in this arena does it right. Inspects it right, load tests it right, you know, repairs it right. And if I may end on the statement here, and this will sort of clarify it all. I've taught many classes nationwide to building departments. I've taught many classes nationwide to fire departments. I've only taught 2 NFPA classes. I taught one in Newport, Rhode Island, and I taught one in Concord, New Hampshire. And they exclusively used the NFPA. Because I was waiting for them to pull out their book, you know. Any fire code book type, you know, it always ties back to chapter 10. Any building department book always comes back to chapter, you know, 101.3. And my first class in Newport, the fire department says, you guys write violations on fire escape? I go, yes. And what code you use? Oh, we use the NFPA. I said, can you tell me where it is? And so I taught an entire class on a book that nobody had any idea where it was. And I asked, please, you know, and the NFPA is in Quincy, Massachusetts, and it's 15 minutes from my house.
Right.
And I called, and it's frustrating to call, and because it's the bastard child of egress, guess where nobody knows where the homeless kid was? Wait, where's the homeless kid? What homeless kid? There's no homeless kids here. Come on, dude, come on, go away. And I was digging, and if anybody could dig, I can dig. And I was digging, I couldn't find it. And so we went through that Newport, Rhode Island class, filled with about 50, 60 firemen, and nobody in there they were writing violations, but they didn't know what to use to enforce it. So then guess what they stopped writing?
The violations.
They stopped writing violations, because well, what's this based on? They're like, I don't know, I'll forget that violation, but fix that sprinkler head. Okay, I'll do that, but.
Yeah.
So I was in Concord, New Hampshire, and I pulled, same thing, they came out, I thought they were gonna pull out one of their, fire codes like everybody else, because 40 states are fire, 10 states are building, plus minus. So to me, it was just gonna be another state that is a fire department state kind of thing. No.
Yeah.
Guy goes, no, we're NFPA. I went, oh my God, NFPA. So in that class, I said, guys, I taught another class, and how many violations are being written? And again, very low to no violations being written because, based on what, nothing. And I says, does anybody here know where the code is for the NFPA? And the gray-haired guy said, yeah, I know exactly where it is. I said, anybody got a book here? So they happen to have a book. Then we gave him the book, and he goes, dun, 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 dun. He went, Live Safety Code 101, 7.2.8.6.2. And then once we read it in class, the authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape that has been shown by load test. And we stop there. And that NFPA, which is today's most current standards of explaining old standards, wouldn't you agree? The NFPA has sort of come in and basically said, interpreted, it's like the cheat book for all the codes.